What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Rutgers coming off a pretty solid 7-6 season last year in 2024. The Scarlet Knights, they've become, the last couple of years, they made it to back-to-back bowl game appearances because pretty much of their schedule, but this is starting to be a team that's become, pretty consistent in the Big Ten as a program. So, yeah, that's really good news to see the Rutgers, getting back on track as a program. But looking at this team for 2025, pretty much both sides of the football are going to be pretty solid. Offensively, they do got their starting quarterback returning from last year. They lost their top running back, but I think the running back room is still going to be pretty good. They added a transfer running back in C.J. Campbell Jr. I think he's going to be pretty solid for them. And I like the additions that they've added in the transfer portal on both sides of the football. Really, the offensive line, I think, is the one area I'm concerned about for Rutgers. They don't have a ton of depth there, but this is not going to be a very talented Rutgers team. We know that, but they're a solid team nonetheless, and I think they have a pretty good shot to make it to a bowl game, but it's really going to come down to their schedule. They have a very tough schedule this year in 2025, and here is that schedule. And again, Rutgers, they were 7-6 last year in 2024, so let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for the Scarlet Knights for 2025. And their first three games of the season, a couple out of those three games to open up the year, Ohio and Miami of Ohio University Redhawks. You look at those two opponents, you probably thinking that Rutgers are going to probably, definitely take care of business, but I wouldn't say they win this one by blowouts because these two teams right here, they were at the top of the MAC from last year in that conference, so maybe the Rutgers have a pretty tough time in these two games, and they do play Ohio on a Thursday night, and sometimes you do see those weeknight games to open up the season. You see some upsets happen, but still, I think the Scarlet Knights are definitely the better team compared to these two teams, and Norfolk State's an FCS team, so that's going to be an easy win there for the Scarlet Knights for 2025. So I think the Rutgers do start off 3-0, but I'm kind of expecting maybe a little bit of a tough one there between the Ohio and Miami of Ohio University Redhawk games. So yeah, those are two games that you don't want to sleep on if you're the Scarlet Knights, but still, I got this team starting off 3-0 before opening up Big Ten play the rest of the way. They actually play Big Ten games here from September 20th all the way to the end of the season, but they open up conference play against Iowa. This will be a home game for the Scarlet Knights on September the 20th. I talked about this Iowa team having a ton of question marks on both sides of the football, especially with the depth and everything. I do like the starting lineup. Don't get me wrong. I think the Hawkeyes will have a pretty good starting lineup that will keep them in the games for a long time, but I just look at the depth, and there's not really a ton of depth for this team, and I don't know why people saying that Iowa is going to be a really good team this year, top 25 team maybe, but I think this team is a little bit overrated in my opinion. Again, I'm not an Iowa hater or anything like that, but I just feel like this team is not going to be like very, very good. I think they'll be like a little bit good, but not very, very good, if that makes sense. But again, the depth is what I'm concerned about here for Iowa. I think this will be a close game though, but I think the Scarlet Knights playing at home, that's really going to be the difference in this one. So home field advantage will be the difference. I'm going to go with Rutgers to get the win here in their first Big Ten game of the season against the Iowa Hawkeyes here on September 20th. So I got Rutgers now improving to 4-0. So a 4-0 start for Rutgers going into their first road game of the season. It's on the road at Minnesota on September 27th. Minnesota team that's going to be pretty similar to Rutgers. They're going to want to run the football in this game. They are a well-coached team by P.J. Fleck. Minnesota has had some great teams under P.J. Fleck. Last year, Minnesota was a pretty solid team. They could be a solid team once again. I don't know if I call them a dark horse team or not, but you never know. They could probably surprise a lot of people this year, but this one I think is a pretty even matchup. This is a game that I think can really go either way, but I got to go with the home field advantage in this one. I think Minnesota does pull off the win here, and plus, it's Rutgers' first road game of the season, and I think that's going to be their first loss of the season, so I got Rutgers now at 4-1. Then they get their first bye week of the season before going out west to play Washington on October the 11th. Pretty good spot for a bye bye week for the Scarlet Knights. You get some time to recover after that really physical game against Minnesota from 2 weeks ago, and then you travel out west here to Washington. Washington team, though, I think is going to be a lot better this year. Jed Fish is a pretty good coach. He's already kind of proven, that to us, a couple years ago when he was at Arizona. This team, that Arizona program turned things around immediately, and Jed Fish definitely has a chance to make this Washington football program definitely get back in the right direction. They are coming off a step-back year last year, but still, you look at this matchup, I feel like it's pretty dead even as well. I feel like Washington will definitely pass the football a lot more than Minnesota will against Rutgers. I mean, the Rutgers, I think, are going to probably slow the game down and waste the clock down by running the football, but still, traveling out west, that tends to give teams a lot of trouble, and I know they get a bye week before playing this game, but teams do struggle when they have to travel out west and everything. But I think Washington, playing at home, that really is the difference. Again, I think both teams are just dead even in my opinion, and I think the Huskies do get the win. So I'm going to go Washington here in this one. That's going to put Rutgers now at 4-2, and then they play a tough game at home against Oregon on October 18th. This is a game that I don't really see Rutgers having a chance here in this one. They also traveled out west from last week. They're going to be a little bit, maybe a sloppy coming into this game. The Ducks are a physical team. I know they have a new quarterback, but I think Dante Moore is going to get better and better as the season goes along. I don't know. I think Rutgers, maybe they keep this game close for a little while, but still, Oregon definitely is the better team. They are just way ahead of Rutgers as of right now as talent perspective, and I got to go with Oregon to get the win. So I'm going to say that the Ducks get the win here, and I got Rutgers falling down to 4-3. So 3 losses in a row after opening up Big Ten play with a win, but then they play on the road at Purdue on October 25th. Obviously Purdue, on paper, they're not the better team than the Scarlet Knights, but you just look at this game. I feel like this is a little bit of a trap game here for the Rutgers. Purdue obviously is not going to be very good this year. Barry Odom takes over as the head coach. We'll see how good of a coach he's going to be to turn this program around. Yeah, he does have a ton of experience as a coach, but still, it's going to be kind of hard to tell how good the Boilermakers are going to be. But you look at this game, again, on the paper, Rutgers are definitely the better roster, and they definitely are the more physical team, but you're coming off that loss to Oregon from last week. Maybe the Scarlet Knights come in a little bit beat up, especially after playing, back-to-back road games, and then you also traveled out west there from 2 weeks ago, and then you come in a lot beat up against, Purdue after playing a physical Oregon team from last week, and I think that probably could cost Rutgers here in this game. Plus, this game is on the road. Purdue is a pretty tough place to play. It's not an easy road game, but still, I think Purdue actually pulls off maybe a slight upset here. So I'm going to go Boilermakers here to get the win. This is a prediction that I don't feel confident about, but still, again, from last week, maybe they come in a little bit beat up, especially after playing a physical Oregon team that should be good on the defensive side of the football, and an offense that's probably going to wear them down. So I got Rutgers losing their 4th game of the season. That's going to put them at 4-4. Then they play at Illinois on November 1st. So they got back-to-back road games here with Purdue and Illinois. 2 very tough back-to-back road games in my opinion. Illinois is a team that I think is going to be really good this year. Top 15 team, top 20 type team. A lot of production coming back for this Illinois team. I think this will be a close game probably in the first half, but I think the experience of Illinois is going to be enough to make this not even a close game in the second half, and I think Illinois actually gets the win here. So 5 losses now in a row for Rutgers after starting off 4-0. That's going to put them at 4-5, and then they finally kind of get a break. They play Maryland at home here on November 8th, and you're probably saying, why is this a break? Well, I don't think the Terrapins of Maryland are going to be really good this year. The roster is just not there for them. They lost so much production from last year. They lost some guys as well in the transfer portal, and I just think this Maryland team is probably going to be like close to the worst team in the Big Ten, and then also maybe the second or third to last team in the Big Ten Conference. So I think Rutgers actually finally gets a win here. So I'm going to say that the Rutgers do get the win here over Maryland. Last year's game was last year's game was not really close. It was a 14-point win. Maybe that's kind of the same story this year in this game. So I got Rutgers now improving to 5-5. But this is where the schedule kind of gets tougher down the stretch. They play Ohio State next here on the road on November 22nd. So they get a bye week before playing this game. Yeah, that's good news there for the Scarlet Knights, but still, Ohio State is just way ahead of Rutgers. I don't really see this one being close at all, just because it's at home here for the Buckeyes. So I don't expect this one to be a dogfight here from Rutgers. I think Ohio State will win this one fairly easily. I know Ohio State's got a new quarterback this year, but this is in the month of November, so he definitely should be ready to develop that by this time here in the month of November. So I got Rutgers now at 5-6, and then they close things out with Penn State at home on November 29th. So how about this? Playing Ohio State and Penn State back-to-back weeks. That is very brutal there for the Scarlet Knights. Again, a really tough schedule here for Rutgers this year in 2025 compared to where they've been in the last couple years. Penn State is a team that's going to be pretty experienced as well, just like Illinois, but they also have talent. They definitely are a more talented team than Illinois, in my opinion. Rutgers are going to try to fight in this game, try to make it to a bowl game at best, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Maybe it's a close game in the first half. They give Penn State a little bit of trouble, but I think Penn State in the second half, that's where they probably pull away, and I think the Nittany Lions will win this one. They are definitely the better team. So I got Rutgers following their last game of the season, and I got this team finishing 5-7 in 2025. I think your most likely records for this team are 4-8, 5-7, or 6-6, and definitely making it to a bowl game, but still, this is a pretty tough schedule. Again, you got very tough opponents on the schedule. You got Oregon, you got Ohio State, Penn State, possibly one of those top contenders in the Big Ten. And then you got some dark horses here with Illinois, possibly Washington as well. Those two games are on the road, but if they beat Purdue, I can see this team going 6-6. But if they don't beat Purdue, or maybe lose to Iowa, this team probably goes 4-8 or 5-7. So that's how I see it going here for the Scarlet Knights, but I got this team going 5-7 in 2025. So that's my prediction for Rutgers. Give me your prediction for this team down in the comments below. And thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.